Hello, this is Dave, Allison's husband. Allison asked me to speak about financial issues connected to the adoption process. My aim is to keep the information at a very general level, free of technical jargon. If listeners would like more detailed information related to the subjects discussed, I'll let you know how to obtain it at the end of the podcast. I need to make the following disclosure before beginning, so bear with me. I'm a CPA licensed in the state of Tennessee. However, the information discussed in the following podcast should not be considered tax advice. I highly recommend adoptive parents engage a tax professional to assist them in reviewing their specific tax situation. When people ask how expensive adoptions are, the honest answer is, it depends. I know people hate that response and want to know a specific dollar amount, but it's the truth. People tend to gravitate to the high cost of adoption, but there are affordable options that exist. It depends on the type of adoption, whether it's through an agency, an attorney, a private placement, or through foster care. Adoption through state foster care systems can be the most affordable option, but adoption through agencies or attorneys can cost up to $50,000. So there are options available, but in all honesty, most adoptive parents want newborns, so they most likely will be engaging an adoption agency or attorney in that case. Agencies and attorneys will provide adoptive parents with costs associated with the adoption process, which will include legal, advertising, and overhead costs, among the many other associated expenses. Additionally, the adoptive parents will most likely be given an estimated budget related to birth mother costs, which are in addition to the agency or attorney costs. I know this can sound overwhelming, and I understand it when prospective adoptive parents feel like giving up due to what appears to be the insurmountable cost of adoption. There is no perfect solution to this problem, but assistance options are available that can at least help alleviate the financial burden adoptive parents face. Some options will take more effort than others. Not everyone will be eligible to benefit from every option. The best plan is for the adoptive parents to incorporate more than one option to help fund their adoption. The first option I'd like to introduce relates to fundraising. There is no limit to fundraising ideas, whether it be bake sales, car washes, or auctions of donated items, amongst other things. You most likely can't cover the cost of the adoption by having only one, but it's a start to get the ball rolling, and there is no constraint on how the adoptive parents use the funds received. There are resources that we can provide, so keep listening and I'll let listeners know how to request them at the end of the podcast. Employer adoption assistance benefits are more limited and would only be available to adoptive parents who actually work for a company who offers them. The Internal Revenue Service states that qualified adoption expenses reimbursed by your employer are excludable from income in the year they are reimbursed. I'll get into the types of expenses that are reimbursable later. Obtaining funding for your adoption using grants is a little trickier since you need to apply to the granting organization, which would then be reviewed by a committee who would compare your needs versus those of other applicants and make a funding determination based on the greatest need or similar factor. Some granting organizations also limit their funding to specific adoption situations, such as those whose focus is finding forever families for children in foster care or those with special needs. Others may limit applicants to those below a certain income level. It never hurts to apply if your situation matches the required criteria. The adoption funding option that receives the most attention is the adoption tax credit. that adoptive parents can claim on their tax returns. Both the adoption tax credit and the employer provided adoption benefit exclusion mentioned earlier are claimed on IRS Form 8839. It's called qualified adoption expenses. Keep in mind you can't claim both the tax credit and the benefit exclusion. As mentioned earlier, only certain qualified expenses are eligible for the tax credit or are excludable from income. Those expenses are as follows. The first category is reasonable and necessary adoption fees, court costs, and attorney fees. There's a second category for traveling expenses, including meals and lodging costs while away from home. And a final category is a catch-all and consists of other expenses that are directly related to and for the principal purpose of the legal adoption of an eligible child. Both the credit and income exclusion are subject to income and dollar limitations. So if you make more than the stated income limitations, then your credit or exclusion amount could be reduced or completely eliminated. If you can claim the credit or exclusion, the dollar amount to claim is capped, so not all the adoptive parent's expenses may be eligible. You can claim the credit and income exclusion for every child adopted, so it's not a one-time event if you adopt more than one child. Also, these tax-related items can be carried forward over multiple years if the adoptive parents do not claim the entire eligible dollar amount in 1 year. One final word on filing Form 8839. The adoptive parents will need a Social Security number or an adoption taxpayer identification number. The adoption taxpayer identification number is used in place of the adopted child's Social Security number in cases where adopting taxpayers do not have or are unable to obtain the child's Social Security number. This number is used by the adopting taxpayer on their personal tax return to identify the child while the adoption finalization is pending. Well, that's it for me. My hope is this has been helpful and informative. As I stated earlier, if listeners would like more detailed information regarding subjects mentioned in this podcast, please contact us through the Conduits of Love website at www.conduitsoflove.com. Go to the Contact Us page and make your request there. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button. Please click on the bell to receive notifications for new podcasts. And also, if you like this podcast, please click the thumbs up and share with others. Allison will return soon with another podcast, so thanks for listening.